Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday, it's not Tuesday today, Wednesday the 20th of March, I think. And yes, apologies for not doing yesterday as planned. But I have been so busy this month with rehearsals. I'm singing in a concert on Good Friday. And it's going to be fab, but it's busy. So yes, so I was out late at a rehearsal last night, hence why we're here today. And we have Jess here. Hola Jess, hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Qué tal? Oh, and we've got Christy as well is here too. Hello there. And well remembered as well for getting the clocks going forward. Right, well, I have not spoken to anybody today because I have been in the studio on my own, and Enrique's down in London working, so you're going to get the as usual. But I couldn't resist. I'm going to be doing I wanted to have another go at making these little hot cross bun sugar mice that just make me smile. They really do. Let's see. I'm reading sideways again. Sorry that it is sideways, but Facebook apparently can't cope with it being in landscape anymore. So we have Linda as well. Hello, Linda. I've just seen I've still to reply to your message. And we have Nikki here as well. Hello, Nikki. And Alison, of course. Alison is here too. So thank you all so much for joining, and thank you for let's have some fun with this little guy. I'm not sure whether you'll be able to see, but there's even the detail. You know how hot cross buns, because they're baked very close together, you sort of tear them apart. So they've got kind of like raw, fluffy bits underneath the baked goodness. So it's it's so strange because I've been wanting to make these hot cross bun sugar mice for ages. Well, at least a month anyway. And I just wasn't sure quite how to do it. But they just told me on Monday, like shortly, just a few hours before the before the shop event. So I managed to make 5 based on that, and I'm so pleased with how they've worked out. So the idea is to make, it's very much like baking, in fact. Oh, we've got Tabitha here as well. Hello. Yes, so the idea is to make a sort of a baking mix. What do you call it? A dough, I suppose it would be. And to make it as realistic as possible, it's got to have a good dollop of translucent clay. So are we okay with sound and camera position? Actually, I could probably do with moving this over a little bit. How's that? Is that a little better? Just to try and make it central. There we go. So I have, I have sort of measured these out, but it's all a bit vague. It's all a bit, sort of, let's see what works best. But I've got translucent clay, I have white clay, I have a bit of grey clay, and I have a touch of ochre clay. So this is my recipe. Let's see. It more or less worked on Monday when I tried it for the first time. So I'm just going to go through the whole process from scratch. So and good, thank you both, Christy and Alison, for confirming that all is well. You are my sound check ladies, much appreciated. I think the camera is a little lower than it normally is, so I may have to move it up so that I'm not I'm in danger of hitting it with my roller. In fact, let me just do that whilst I'm here. Oh, sorry, try not to get vertical. How's that? Is that still okay? Because gives me a little bit more room to work, basically. Right. Now, the trickiest thing about this cake mixture, or dough mixture, I should say, is because it's translucent clay, it gets very soft quite quickly, and it becomes quite hard to work with. So I've got to kind of let them rest in between. Oh, and good, and yes, still okay. Thank you for that. Right, so I'm just doing the white and the translucent to begin with. The good thing is it blends fairly quickly. I'm using Primo for the Sculpey Primo white and the translucent Primo. I can mix and match. I could use the Fimo Professional stuff or the Fimo translucent clay, but I think Sculpey is better for whatever reason. There you go. Right, okay, so that's those two mixed. Now I'm going to just take a little bit off that. This is grey. This is just kind of, it doesn't make it grey, but it just takes the edge off it, off the whiteness, off the brightness. And I'm going to just put in the ochre as well. This will kind of make it slightly off-white, because this will be the base of the sugar mouse. And it will shine through, or that's the idea anyway, but while still looking fairly realistic. Because you know how most of my wee creatures are fairly stylized, but there's something quite endearing about these ones because they are so realistic. It's just, they make me laugh, which is the best thing to do. Oh right, yes, and I have to let the dough proof. This is true. It is actually. It's incredibly like baking. So here I am rolling it out with my rolling pin, making sure that it's as well mixed as possible. Meanwhile, that's actually heating up the clay, so it is going to be quite hard to work with at some point, but I will do my best. And whatever's left, I mean, what I will do, because I am going to make a super big batch of these, and this will mean making up this this dough mixture on industrial scales. So I can imagine I'm going to be mixing and kneading and blending and, you know, just doing all this sort of stuff on a super scale, and then it will be a case of it can rest overnight, and that will be much easier to work with. Now, if it becomes too soft, I can leach out the excess polymer in it, and you just do that by putting it between two sheets of paper and leaving it overnight with something heavy on top of it, and that helps sort of make it less sticky. It firms it up a little bit, so that's something to do. Right, so I think we're just about there. Now, I'm just doing a compare and contrast. This is what was left over from Monday, and good, yes. Now, I don't know whether you can see that there's a bit of a difference. This is slightly colder, this is a bit warmer. That's what I was wanting to go with. I made this one with tan rather than ochre, so the ochre actually gives it a nice warm, a bit of a warmer depth to it. Right, so now I have to weigh out. Now, the only thing about today is that I won't be able to varnish it. I need to wait until it's baked before I can varnish it. And it's the varnish that really totally brings it to life, which is wonderful. But I'll do my best, and as always, I shall post a picture. But you know what he's going to look like, or more or less anyway. Right, so these are 4 grams of clay. So let's see that. How good am I? I've got another 0.15. There we go. That is exactly 4 grams of clay. So I'll just roll it out. Now the other good thing about this is that flob management doesn't have to be quite as precise, although I will still do it, because it's going to be covered, or at least blended, with pastels on top. So that's the idea. And also, this is where I put, it's not really a secret ingredient anymore, but I need to mix at this point. It really is like a recipe. It's amazing. I love it. I just love it. So I'm going to, rather than sort of roll it into a sugar mouse shape right now, oh, my fingernails are a bit mucky. I am going to now I'm going to make a little indentation with some extra flob in there. That's all mine, because I was tidying up some of the fox clay earlier on. And anyway, right, and so it's orange. Oh, do you know, it's very sticky, this clay now. Right, poppy seeds. I have poppy seeds, and you know, they're great. They're super. I'm not sure that these are the best quality, so I have ordered some super fine blue ones, and that should actually make them even better. But the idea is just to scoop in, trying not to spill them all over, just a small spoonful, but more than you'd probably think. These are the raisins. There we go. That'll do. And carefully put the lid back on. We're going to have some eye eye box and eye rummaging soon. Right, so I'm trying to not, what am I trying to say? I'm trying not to have them spill out. A few will, but basically, right, okay, that's more or less all captured in there. And then it's a question of, yes, flob could indeed be currants, absolutely. This is, this is the way to look at it. And the idea is to mix it very thoroughly so that the poppy seeds are all in here. Now, the only thing with having the poppy seeds right through the clay is obviously it takes away from the smoothness. So I have to try and find the shape of the sugar mouse which has a more or less a clean snout, but the raisins are all in the back. Now, I may well finesse this process, but this is only my second time of making them. So forgive me whilst I find out the best way to do it. So I just want to keep on mixing them through so that they are evenly distributed. And the idea is that some of them, more of them, will be sort of hovering towards the top. You see, that's quite a good section. Right, so roll it into a ball now, and this is where I have to find the nose, which will be as clear of raisins as possible. And I think that's it there. I can always dig them out if I need to. So I'm just very lightly teasing the nose, the snout, into its cone shape. There we go. Now you see I have. It's not too bad actually. That'll work, because I mean it is all sort of integral part of the clay. I can't stop myself. If I see little bits of flob, I will have to do something about it. All right, actually that's a clearer bit. That was going to be the bottom, but that'll do for the top. So yes, now just to press the shape. And then I'm just going to quickly wash my hands a little bit. Actually, my fingernails are dirty because I was playing with the pastels, which I shot. So they're going to get even muckier. So I don't know why I bother trying, but anyway. Right, so that is the basic shape of the sugar mouse. So that's its bottom. Its nose is fairly clear of raisins. And it's got some raisins on the top. That's good. Right, so now I just need to mark where the eye holes are going. There we go. And again, I'm trying not to touch this even more than I normally try not to touch it, because it does make it's very hot. It's warm in here anyway. It's spring, it's wonderful. But yes, having it, because the clay is so soft and sticky, because it's got the translucent clay in it, it does make it rather hard to work with. Right, so just snick off a bit for the, in fact I won't fold that away yet. Snick off a bit for the nose. And Alison's favourite part, I am going to be eye boxing, having a good old rummage in the eye box. So these are my 2mm beads, and give me a good choice. Now I have seen some people make polymer clay miniature hot cross buns with beads, or with even chopped up bits of clay that they've baked, but I really think the poppy seeds just are perfect for them. Right, let's get the right size. Oh, that's meh, that one's smaller. Oh, that's better. Yep, those two. I'm sure I've said before that this is like when at Wimbledon when they're given 3 balls, the players are given 3 balls and they bounce them all and discard one. Oh no, it's gone away. Discard one and keep the other 2 for no apparent reason, or for no reason that we can discern as mere mortals. Anyway, right. the eyes go in. This is quite a pointy nose. I'm working at more of a distance than I normally am because the phone is actually where my eyes normally are. So you really are getting my point of view much more than I am, actually, ironically enough, interestingly enough. Right, okay, eyes are back in the box very safely. All right, and let's just get my ball shaper. So I'm just going to lightly push in the eyes. There we go. And I'm using the slightly darker clay, which is, again, it's Sculpey. This is more or less the clay that I used to use for the insides of ears and paws and tails. I don't use it so much anymore. I don't use it at all, actually. I use Fimo Professional doll clay. But it's quite good for this design because it's a darker clay. So it's it needs something, oh sorry, it's a paler clay, but it needs something to sort of stand out more. Right, I'll just chop off a little bit of this and roll out the ear. So I'm really happy with this colour actually for the dough. So will work very well. Right, so I'm just going to roll out the ear. The clay for the ear, so that's on the thickest setting of the pasta machine, and my ear cutter, that is the size of the ear cutter, and then I will use this, as I say, this is Sculpey Primo. Well, sorry, it's actually Super Sculpey. That's a bit more. I'll be accurate. I really cannot multitask. Anybody who tells you they can, I think, is just exaggerating. Anyway, yes, so it's Super Sculpey. It's not Sculpey Primo. It's the stuff which is often used by modelers, like Aardman, the Aardman creations, the Wallace and Gromit, etc. A lot of it is used either with plasticine or with Super Sculpey. So it's a bit firmer than normal Sculpey, and it just comes in either beige or a grey, and then you can paint it. You can do all sorts of things with it, but it's actually pretty perfect for inner ears and tails and paws, but no paws on the sugar mice. Right, so I'm going to now where's my other ball shaper? I'm going to press out the shape of the ear. Again, the clay is so soft. Oh, you see? That's not just flob, though. I think that's actually black clay. Picks up everything. Right, that'll do. And so I've got to try and make sure that it doesn't deform too much. I can't tell you. I mean, if you felt it, you'd be like, ew, how can you work with that? And yes, I ask myself that anyway. Right. Oh, you see, that's starting to deform and get a little bit too big. However, I will be able to pull it gently back into position. That'll do. Same thing on this side. And you can see, I don't know whether you can see actually, but it's not distorting at the same rate. Sorry, the beige clay is not distorting at the same rate as the pale clay because it's not so, it's much stiffer. So that's something also that you need to bear in mind, that it doesn't blend very well with other clays. Soft clay doesn't really blend well with hard clay. You've got to spend quite a long time working with it. Right. Cutting off the ear at a 45-degree angle, doing my best to get the same amount of cut off on both ears. You can usually tell by what's left over. That'll do. And it doesn't really need my extender medium, but I shall put a little dot on anyway. Creature of habit and all that. And it does make for a better join. Right. And this is real fingertip stuff. Oh, so fingertip. Nose isn't quite right, but I'll come back and fix it later. Yeah. Oh, it's got a bit of sparkle in it actually. I'll just nick that out. There you go. Oh, I'm not blethering so much tonight, do forgive me. Concentrating far too much. Also a bit tired actually. This concert is going to be really good. It's the Bach St. John Passion, not the Matthew Passion. And it's at the Bridgewater Hall, which is like the biggest or the best concert hall in Manchester. We're going to be accompanied by the BBC Philharmonic and all sorts of soloists. And yeah, so that's next Friday. And I think it will be broadcast on Radio 3. So yeah, so it's taking up, it's an experience, let's put it that way. Right, okay, ears are, it's harder to manipulate than normal clay because it is so soft. So just trying to make sure that it adheres and doesn't slide about too much on the surface. And tuck the ears in, give them a bit of shape, and then smooth off the insides like that. Right. Okay, that's the ears more or less done. Now, what I need to do now is read some of your comments. I've been seeing, let's see, oh good, I'm glad that you're looking forward to hearing the concert. Don't feel that you have to listen to it, but I think it'll be a good one, I have to say. It's sounding good. The rehearsals are going well. Right. Okay, yeah, I think because the clay is so soft, the eyes have sunk in more than they would normally. Because what I did on Monday was made up the mix and then left it to prove, to rise for a little bit. But that'll do. Right. Okay. So now we bake him, but not formally. We need to add the colour, basically, to him. But before we add the colour, before we bake him, sorry, I'm just making sure that the ears are completely adherent to the body. Normally I'd be able to push them in much more roughly than I am, but as I say, treating him gently. Right, okay. Right, yes, yeah, okay. So the next thing is to give it that texture at the bottom of, around the bottom of the body. And to do that, I use rolled up foil. I mean, it is a bit mad what you can do. But the idea then is just to carefully press in the bottom half so that it forms a line without deforming the rest of the mouse too much. Can you see that? I'm not sure whether it's going to show up on the video. But the idea is that to indent it enough so that it looks like torn dough, but not on the face. The face is left clear. And God, you can tell I'm concentrating, can't you? Where are the blethers? What is going on? Apologies for being quieter than usual, but it's delicate stuff. It takes a bit of doing, but it's so worth the effort. It really is. Right, so I could play around with that a bit more, but that's pretty good. Right, and then I'm just going to squish them down a little bit because they are slightly less rounded on top. But to be honest, as I found on Monday, when it comes to sort of mark the cross on him, then that'll take care of itself. That'll help flatten him out anyway. Right, so the messy bit, what I'm going to do before I do the messy bit though is, which I should have done to begin with, I'm going to cut out and roll out the tail, and also roll out the bits of, it's not, what are the bits, what are the white bits on the top of a hot cross bun? I don't think it's the actual, it might be the dough, but I might be wrong. I don't know. If you've got any suggestions or if you know the answer, let me know. Because it's just, yeah, it seems to be at a paler colour than the actual, the dough. The dough. Okay, it is the dough. I can't call it pastry. Can't call it clay. It is the dough. Right, my hands are going to get very messy in a minute, so this is why I'm rolling out the things which don't really want to be messy. Now, you see how this is a darker clay than that. It's a bit more translucent and a bit darker, but I think that'll show up better against the dough and against the bread once it's done. Right, what I shall also do now is add a few more bits on top, just at random places, because sometimes raisins stick at the top. So we've got a few under the surface, we'll have a few on the surface. And again, just gently pressing them into embed. I could do with one or two over here. And I really want them randomly, and not too many, that'll do, I think. There we go. So I really do love the randomness of this. Yeah, so have we got flour and water for the homemade cross, so that's for the bit across the top, the dough at the top. Right, well, it needs to be basically more white, but slightly off-white. And this is where having flobby hands actually comes in handy, because when I roll this out, it will make it slightly off-white anyway. But I think what I might do is actually just put a touch of Monday's clay into it. And that'll just give it a slightly more depth to the actual white, if you know what I mean. It'll actually look less like clay and more like flour and water, or more like a baked product than clay. Right, that'll do. Right. And then it's a question of trying to get them to the right width, and they're really, it's very thin, much thinner than you might think. Because if you look at this little critter, see, that's probably about right. Okay, and they all need to be roughly the same size as well. So I shall cut 2 and another one here. Right, so hopefully they'll be fine. I'll put them next to the tail. And now the fun bit. So it's pastels, you probably gathered that. It's pastels that make the clay that fantastic baked colour. So all I do is I get a bit of scrap paper. Just move him to one side. And it's sort of a multi-layer process, this. I just need to get a brush for putting it in, and so I'm using three shades. So I'm going to start with that one, which will be the sort of the paler colour. So I'll just scrape a little bit off. Doesn't need much. There we go. And then I'll do a slightly darker one. And actually, although it looks really dark on the, just on the paper, off the chalk itself, it doesn't translate that way, and it just needs a little bit of the brown as well, just to highlight the top bits. So that's the sort of the. Oh, could you see that? Okay, sorry, just realised I might have been going off a little bit. So that's light, darker, darkest. But these are sort of more reddy brown, and this is more brown. So I start off, and yeah, hands, ugh, very messy. So actually I'm going to put the little mouse on one of my little clear dishes. This is good. It means I can turn him around and I don't have to handle him. These are great. These are fantastic little acrylic squares, 5 centimeters square. Right, so I'm going to start with this one. And it's just a question of blending it lightly over the top. This one will go more down towards the edges. So this is sort of like the base colour, if you like. And then as it gets to the top, it'll have more browning. Now the good thing about using this pastels is that you can build up the intensity of the colour just by adding more layers. So it's quite light at the moment. I'm just going to try and get it to an even depth, if that's the right word. Level, I suppose. So obviously it's not going right down to the bottom. I can't tip him up too far because I don't want to fall off. And I need to do the back of his ears as well. Very lightly, very gently. And it doesn't matter so much if he gets a few smudges on his nose, because he's baked goods, basically, quite literally. Okay, make sure it comes down a little bit in between his ears as well, and just keep very lightly colouring his ears. So the gloss will really bring out all of this. All right, so that's good for a first layer. I'll now move on to the slightly darker one and just build up and the layers. And because it's different intensities of colour, it kind of really goes to. It just looks like he looks baked. He looks baked in the oven. So again, pretty light at this stage, because it's sort of intensifying the colour, the orange, but giving it more of a richness. And it doesn't have to go right the way down because he's already got the orange, but this is more for the top layer. Okay. Right, this is good. Let's even out that little bit of it and there. And then the last one, I shall put the darker one. So this is just more, again, highlights, just to, as the closer he is to the top of the oven, the darker he will be, the more brown he will be. And I think what I did on Monday, I actually blended some of these together. So that might be something that I want to do more of. There we go. It's amazing. Wow. Polymer clay. I know I say it all the time, but it just never ceases to amaze me. the impacts, the results, it's just phenomenal stuff. So after 15 years of playing with it and having fun, I'm still amazed. There you go. So just giving his ears a little bit of a light dusting. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now I can't show you, but he's white underneath with that sort of you know, the crinkled edge. Right, this is good. Excellent, excellent, excellent. We're doing well. We're doing well. Right, I shall carefully move that to one side. What I'll probably do is, whilst I'm making the big batch, I will what you call shave. That's not the right word. I'll scrape off your little tubs of each of those colours. That'll work better. Right, now to mark where the. Let me just give my hands a bit of a wash first of all. A bit of a clean. How are we doing for time? Oops, 25 to. We're doing all right. Right, so now we need to just mark in where the indentations are going for his white bits. So this is actually this is quite tricky because I've got to make it more or less uniform and be quite strong with it. There we go, and kind of roll it on either side, and then it's not for the faint-hearted, this really. But by indenting it quite firmly, that'll give that wonderful sort of lifted effect in between the white bit. There we go. Yep, it's looking good, looking good. But it will look so much better when I've got his oh, see, this is what happens. Oh no, and I'm using, oh, of course I'm using my scalpel, which I was using to cut or to scrape the clay, the pastels with. Right, there we go. Yeah, I'm going to redo his nose. It's not as good as it should be. But yes, a light dusting is absolutely fine for his nose, but just nowhere near as much as he has on his back. Right. And now these bits go on. So I know my fingers are dirty, but actually a little bit of, oh, am I off the, no, I'm not off the screen. I thought I was. A little bit of extra flob is no bad thing. And then I don't want to deform yet. I will be deforming this line, but not quite yet. And then lightly snicking it off. There we go. And I didn't try this on Monday, but I'm going to try it now. So I'm just making an indentation on that so it doesn't sit up too proudly. And make this a little bit thinner. There we go. And where's my clay shaper? Just to lightly press that in. And then snick it there too. There we go. And then, just to make sure that that's a little bit flusher, and I'll do it on both sides. There we go. Oh, sorry, I'm cackling, but they just make me laugh. They just make me smile. They're just fabulous. There we go. Excellent. Right. So, and just his tail now to put on. And the varnish will really, really help bring out those colours. I mean, to be honest, I won't do it now, obviously, because he's got his white cross on him. But I could even make the back of his back a little bit darker. Let's compare with that one. Oh, it's a little bit darker than the first one I made, so I think that's better, and the varnish will certainly bring him out much better as well. That'll bring out the colour. So just to add the tail. Oh, and I haven't signed him yet, so got that to do. So at an angle, add that to my tail pile. Little touch of extender medium. And actually you might be able to, I am going to have to lift him off here. Do you see how that's, oh, see how that's patterned? Oh, it's just fantastic. Polymer clay. Don't you love it? And then bring it round. There we go. There's his tail on. I'll just give this a bit of a clean. And now to sign him. So I'll just get my tiny little cane, which has been going on the go now for several years. I couldn't tell you exactly how long. And another fine tissue blade. Chop off a thin slice. It's a monogram QC, which I've made up as a cane. It started off as being really big and now it's really small. Let's see. Can you see that? That's the little QC. So there we go. There's my little my little sugar mouse, which just he does make me smile. So yeah, a little bit of tidying up of his nose, but he does have a cute face. And to be honest, actually, a little bit of imperfections is probably no bad thing when it comes to baking mice. So thank you so much for joining, and I will go through, I'm sorry I haven't been able to see all your comments, but thank you very much. Alison, you always make me smile with all your comments. It's been wonderful, and thank you for joining me. I shall, as I say, I'm going to do a big batch, and everybody who wants one will have one, because I'm just having too much fun making them. They really are just so much fun. So have a lovely evening. Thank you, Nikki, for joining me, and thank you, Jess, as well. And I'm still excited by your wonderful news. And I shall see you tomorrow. All right. Night night. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, and night. Bye bye.